Imagine a worldview where um, the ultimate secret to unlocking a heavenly cosmic future, like the literal key to paradise, is simply to never ever tie the knot.
Right, just avoiding marriage entirely.
Yeah, completely. Welcome to a deep dive that really flips the script on one of humanity's oldest and, most universal institutions.
It definitely challenges everything we are taught to expect.
Exactly. So today's source text is a piece titled Blessings to the Unmarried. It was written by Shuifeng on June 14th, 2023, and edited by Kinyu. And, it doesn't just argue that marriage is difficult, it argues that the wedding contract itself is the literal root of all human suffering.
Yeah, it is a very bold stance.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to impartially unpack how this highly provocative radical philosophy bridges everyday relationship grievances, the normal stuff people bicker about in the kitchen, with vast cosmic theology.
Which is quite a leap, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Usually, society treats marriage like the ultimate finish line of a romantic comedy, right? But this text, well, it treats it like a horror movie, where the monster is the institution itself.
Yeah, to understand the sheer scale of the author's argument, we really have to look at the foundational premise that Shifeng lays out here.
Right. Where does it all start?
Well, the text makes this uncompromising claim that the institution of marriage is, quote, a design of the devil, end quote, aimed at dragging people into hell.
Wow. Designed of the devil.
Exactly. It isn't framed as just some flawed human tradition or, a social construct that needs a bit of tweaking. The author views it as a metaphysical trap.
A trap.
Yeah, one that is specifically designed to function as an incubator for human misery.
Okay, wait. I am kind of hung up on that specific word, incubator.
It is a strong word, yeah.
It is, because it implies a deliberate environment, right? Like an incubator is supposed to provide the perfect controlled temperature and humidity for something to grow and hatch.
Right, exactly.
So calling it an incubator of demons is an incredibly intense way to describe just living with someone. Does the author think humans are inherently bad and marriage just exposes these dormant demons? Or is the institution itself a kind of poison that ruins perfectly good people?
The implication in the text leans heavily toward the institution itself being the poison.
Really? So the structure itself is to blame.
Yeah, Sueffing specifically notes that human nature is literally distorted through marriage. To illustrate just how corrosive this structure is, the author asserts that even angels entering into marriage can turn into demons.
Wait, angels? Like literal perfect beings?
Yes. The argument is that if an ethereal perfect being can be corrupted simply by signing a marriage certificate, then the blame is placed squarely on the architecture of the commitment.
Oh, wow.
Right. It is the exclusivity, the forced proximity, and the binding nature of the contract. Those things provide the exact optimal conditions for our absolute worst traits to thrive.
So it brings out the worst in us by design. What kind of traits are we talking about here?
Well, the text lists them out very specifically. It mentions jealousy, comparison, selfishness, strife, corruption, and narrow-mindedness.
So the author isn't just saying that living together causes a little friction. They're arguing that this friction is a deliberate feature of this devil's design, meant to actively warp your character.
Exactly. It is a feature, not a bug.
But what I find so compelling is how the text grounds this massive demonic transformation in the incredibly mundane, the everyday annoyances of domestic life.
It really gets into the weeds of daily life.
Yeah, because calling it a design of the devil is a massive abstract claim. Does the author actually back that up with anything grounded, or is it just spiritual name-calling?
No, the text actually paints a highly specific, almost uncomfortably relatable picture of domestic life to prove its point.
Oh, really? What do they use as examples?
Well, Xuan warns the unmarried by asking them to vividly imagine the day-to-day reality of being bound to another person. The text rapid fires this long list of potential partner flaws that you're suddenly locked into dealing with.
Like what kind of flaws?
It asks you to consider the burden of bad habits or a partner's complete lack of hygiene.
Oh, like leaving dirty socks on the floor.
Right, exactly. It also mentions vanity, excessive socializing, volatile and irritable tempers, and deeply unreasonable behavior.
That sounds exhausting. It even brings up the feeling of being policed in your own home, right?
Yes, very much so.
Because I remember the text mentions having a partner with a strong possessiveness, like someone who controls your behavior, specifically not allowing you to freely interact with the opposite sex.
Yeah, that level of control is highlighted as a major issue.
And then there is the mention of a partner constantly nagging in your ear and always finding fault with you. It is fascinating how the author uses these micro-annoyances.
It builds a very claustrophobic picture.
It really does. But here is where the text makes a breathtaking rhetorical leap.
Oh, right. The leap to global issues.
Yes, one minute we are arguing about someone's lack of hygiene or their constant nagging, and the next, the author is blaming that exact same domestic dynamic for the collapse of global peace.
It scales up very quickly.
So fast. The text literally states that marriage is the birthplace of familial, racial, and national conflicts. How does the text justify bridging that massive gap?
Yeah.
Like, how do dirty socks on the floor or nagging in the kitchen lead to national conflicts?
Well, to understand that leap, we have to look at the psychology of possessiveness that the author believes marriage instills in us.
Okay, break that down for me.
If the family unit is the foundational building block of society, right, and that building block is fundamentally defined by exclusivity and ownership, the idea of my spouse, my house, my family.
Right, the whole my property mindset.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Then society itself is built on a foundation of separation. The author is arguing that the selfishness and the us versus them mentality incubated inside a marriage simply scales up.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when you marry, you draw a microscopic border around yourselves. That possessive microscopic border becomes a possessive family unit.
Which scales up to a race, I am guessing.
You got it. It scales up to a tribalistic race, which eventually scales up into an aggressive nation fiercely defending its borders.
Wow.
So the micro-strife of the household, that instinct to guard what is yours and control what is around you, is the exact same energy that fuels wars on a macro level.
That is a staggering way to view human history.
Mm.
It implies that every global tragedy is just domestic possessiveness projected onto a world map.
That is exactly what Shufeng is arguing.
And the text offers a remarkably bleak view of your options once you are caught in this system. I mean, if you marry someone and these flaws like the hygiene, the temper, the possessiveness, if they emerge, what are you supposed to do?
The author basically says you only have two choices, and neither of them are good.
Right. It says you either grit your teeth and endure it for a lifetime or go through the agony of a divorce.
Exactly. And Shufeng explicitly states that whether enduring or divorcing, both paths are, quote, painful and tragic in life.
So there's just no winning move once you enter the contract.
None at all. The tragedy is basically baked into the premise from day one. For Shufeng, this is precisely why the majority of human suffering in society originates from marriage.
It is such a heavy conclusion.
It is. The text labels the institution as ugly, calling it a calamity and an obstacle that actively resists the elevation of human life quality.
It sounds like a system designed to just drain your energy.
That is exactly the point. It ensures you spend your finite energy managing interpersonal conflict rather than achieving any sort of higher spiritual growth.
Okay, so if the author believes entering this institution guarantees misery, what exactly is the theological penalty for staying? What happens to the people who just grit their teeth and endure it?
Well, the text doesn't just stop at earthly unhappiness.
Right, it goes way beyond that.
Yeah, it looks completely beyond earth for the ultimate consequences, diving into this vast cosmic theology.
So what is the spiritual cost here?
The spiritual cost is where the text takes its most decisive turn. To bolster the argument that true freedom lies outside of marriage, the author actually cites Christ Jesus.
Really? Quoting the Bible?
Yes. Quoting, "In heaven there is neither marrying nor giving in marriage."
Okay, so bringing in a major religious figure to back the claim.
Exactly. For Shufeng, this isn't just a casual detail about what happens in the afterlife. It is the core architectural principle of paradise.
The defining feature of heaven.
Right. The fundamental reason why heaven is beautiful and why it functions as a utopia lies precisely in the total absence of marriage.
The author seems to be saying that humanity has been completely blind to this architectural principle. Like, we just completely missed the point.
We missed it entirely, according to the text.
The text claims that human history is essentially a chronicle of suffering, and that when we gaze upon the vastness of the cosmos, we realize our entire history is also a chronicle of ignorance.
That is a powerful phrase, a chronicle of ignorance.
It really is. And the mechanism driving this ignorance is that everyone willingly and unknowingly signs what the author calls a contract of self-sale by marrying.
Right, that phrase, a contract of self-sale, it does a lot of heavy lifting in this philosophy.
What exactly do they mean by self-sale?
Well, it completely reframes the concept of a wedding. Instead of a mutual joining or, a celebration of love, it is viewed as a mutual forfeiture.
You are giving yourself up.
Exactly. You are selling your autonomy, your vital energy, and ultimately your spiritual potential in exchange for an illusion of security.
So this contract of self-sale is almost like like signing a draconian terms of service agreement for an app.
That's a great analogy.
Right, you click I agree because you want the romantic wedding, the cake, and the societal approval.
Yeah.
But buried in the fine print is a clause where you legally forfeit your spiritual autonomy.
And you don't even realize you have done it until it is too late.
Yeah, and the text uses this incredibly poetic but intensely dark imagery for how that illusion eventually shatters.
Oh, the riverbed of years.
Yes, talks about sweet love entering the halls of marriage, but then as time passes, all those beautiful wishes gradually settle into the riverbed of years.
The riverbed of years is such a striking visual.
It really paints a picture.
It conveys the slow, inevitable sinking of romantic optimism. All that initial hope, it doesn't explode, right? It just slowly sinks to the bottom, weighed down by the daily friction and the reality of the institution.
So the efforts to change the other person, to mold them into the ideal partner you imagined, they just eventually fade away like illusions.
Exactly. They just wash away.
It sounds like investing your entire life savings into a sinking ship, hoping you can patch the holes, only to realize your spiritual energy is entirely drained.
That is exactly the dynamic Shifeng is describing.
The text describes this downward spiral where hope turns into disappointment, disappointment turns into despair, and ultimately, and this is a phrase that really stood out, one enters the bottomless abyss of reincarnation with endless remorse and regret.
Yes, the abyss of reincarnation.
Wait, reincarnation. A minute ago we were quoting Jesus, and now we were talking about the abyss of reincarnation. What exactly is Wu Feng's cosmology here? How do these fit together?
It is fascinating, isn't it? The author is utilizing a highly syncretic approach, basically blending different spiritual traditions to paint an overarching, unified cosmic picture.
Okay, so mixing traditions to make a point.
Right. The quote from Jesus is used as proof of the heavenly standard, that the ultimate paradise is free from marriage.
Okay.
Reincarnation, on the other hand, is framed as the ultimate punishment for failing to reach that standard.
Oh, I see. So it is a penalty.
Exactly. In this cosmology, if you sign that contract of self-sale and allow your energy to be drained by the friction of marriage, you fail to achieve spiritual escape velocity.
Spiritual escape velocity. I like
Yeah, you get pulled back into the bottomless abyss of reincarnation, meaning you are doomed to repeat the cycle of earthly suffering.
it's coming back over and over.
Returning again and again to endure the very conflicts and miseries that trapped you in the first place.
Now that makes the stakes incredibly high.
Mm.
For Suifeng, life is short, like just a blink of an eye, and the ultimate currency in any existence, whether on earth or in heaven, is absolute freedom.
Absolute freedom is everything.
The text explicitly states, where there is freedom, there is paradise, and where there is no freedom, there is hell.
It is a very binary view.
It is. And based on those strict parameters, I have to ask, does the text offer any middle ground at all? Like, is there such a thing as a healthy, balanced marriage in this worldview, or is any binding commitment seen as a complete loss of that freedom?
Within the framework the author has constructed, there is absolutely zero middle ground. The text is definitive on this.
Zero middle ground. Wow.
Yeah, it states, binding yourself to others will undoubtedly result in the loss of freedom, which is not worth the trade-off.
So no exceptions.
None. Any binding commitment is viewed as inherently restrictive, and restriction is the exact antithesis of the heavenly state.
Right.
To enjoy the beauty of heavenly life, the text dictates that one must never enter into marriage. The absence of marriage isn't just an incidental feature of paradise, it is the strict, non-negotiable prerequisite for entry.
If earthly life is this inescapable trap of karma and ignorance where everyone is just selling themselves into bondage, and if true freedom is the only currency that matters, what is the alternative?
That is the big question.
Right. Where exactly is this paradise the author promises to the unmarried? Because the text doesn't just leave us floating in an abstract spiritual void, it actually offers a highly specific alternative.
Yes, the text moves from a theological critique of domestic life into a grand, highly specific cosmic vision.
I found this part so surprising.
It is definitely a shift. The author asks us to look up at the vastness of the cosmos again, but this time to focus on a precise location rather than an abstract concept.
Wait, hold on. We just went from complaining about nagging spouses and dirty laundry to pinpointing a literal physical location in the Milky Way.
We did.
Is the author speaking metaphorically here about a state of mind, or are they proposing an actual physical sci-fi utopia out in space?
The author actually hints it as a literal physical reality.
Are you serious?
Yes. The text claims that in the Milky Way galaxy, there is a specific place where people live entirely without marriage.
Okay.
It describes the characteristics of this realm in a very vivid utopian terms. It is a place of harmonious and peaceful living. The logic is that because there is no marriage, the foundational building block of possessiveness has simply been removed.
Right, so no my spouse or my family.
Exactly, and therefore no jealousy. Instead, everyone loves and cares for each other collectively and universally.
The text goes into detail about this environment too, mentioning beautiful mountains and rivers and abundant natural
It
resources.
sounds idyllic.
It does. It says everyone there relishes the joys of being alive, and they have this boundless yearning and anticipation for a bright future.
A stark contrast to earthly life.
A complete inversion of that bottomless abyss of reincarnation we were just discussing. It replaces the endless repeating despair of earthly domesticity with boundless cosmic optimism.
Furthermore, the author actually gives this planet a specific name.
Right, what is it called again?
It is referred to as the primary form of heaven, the 1,000-year world.
The 1,000-year world.
Yeah, this is the realm where the friction of interpersonal ownership simply does not exist. That allows human energy to be spent on joy and collective harmony rather than constantly managing strife.
And the text isn't just presenting this as a fun thought experiment about aliens living peacefully out there in the galaxy.
No, not at all.
It insists that this specific realm is the definitive direction that human development on Earth must emulate. It is framed as the ultimate evolutionary blueprint for our species.
Xu Feng is presenting this as an absolute evolutionary imperative.
So we have to copy it.
Yes, the argument is that if humanity ever wants to escape its chronicle of suffering and ignorance, it must shed the archaic institution of marriage entirely and model its social structures after this galactic civilization.
Or we just stay stuck.
Basically.
Yeah.
Until we remove the contract of self-sale, we will remain trapped in the cycle of conflict.
This brings the text philosophy incredibly full circle. I mean, the scope of this argument is massive.
It is surprisingly expansive.
Yeah, the author literally moves from earthly domestic squabbles, the friction of bad habits or controlling behavior, all the way to a literal galactic utopia in the Milky Way.
It covers a lot of ground.
And it all culminates in the author's ultimate blessing to you, the listener, if you happen to be unmarried.
The final takeaway.
Right. The text concludes with a direct promise, saying, "My blessing to the unmarried is, you will eventually enter the heavenly realm of the 1,000-year world."
It is a profound theological promise made specifically to those who reject the societal norm.
Which is a huge incentive.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
According to Xu Feng, by refusing to sign that draconian terms of service, you are preserving your ultimate currency, your freedom.
Right.
And by maintaining that spiritual autonomy, you are securing your ticket out of the cycle of reincarnation and straight into this heavenly marriage-free planet.
It really makes you sit back and process the everyday structures we just accept as normal. We've gone on quite a journey today with this deep dive into Xu Feng's text.
We really have.
We started by exploring how blessings to the unmarried views marriage not as a celebration of love, but as a deliberate incubator meant to distort human nature and drain our spiritual energy.
And we unpacked that fascinating leap from the gritty realities of domestic friction to the psychology of possessiveness.
Right. The possessiveness that the author argues causes racial and national conflicts.
We also explored the heavy spiritual cost outlined in the text, the tragedy of the riverbed of years, where romantic hopes just sink under the weight of the institution.
Eventually pulling the individual into the endless abyss of reincarnation.
Exactly.
And finally, we followed the author's logic out into the Milky Way, arriving at the 1,000-year world. A literal utopian vision of boundless freedom, beautiful landscapes, and collective harmony, reserved entirely for those who refuse the contract of self-sale.
By framing a universally celebrated institution as a design of the devil, the text forces a complete reevaluation of what we consider to be a successful or desirable life path.
It really does.
It completely challenges the assumption that binding ourselves to another person is the ultimate expression of love.
It flips the narrative we are handed from birth,
Hmm.
which leaves us with a lot to chew on. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a lingering philosophical question to mull over on your own.
Something to think about.
Yeah, a thought inspired by the text, but looking just a bit beyond its strict parameters.
Because if absolute unbound freedom is the strict prerequisite for paradise, as this text so passionately argues, we have to deeply question the nature of human connection and commitment.
Is it ever possible for a deep, binding human commitment to actually expand our spiritual freedom? rather than restrict it?
That is a great question.
Can the friction of living with another person act as a forge that strengthens our character rather than an incubator that corrupts it?
Or is the author right? Is every contract we signed, every vow we make, ultimately just a cage in disguise? Does true paradise really require us to walk entirely unattached? Or is there a way to build a 1,000-year world right here with someone else? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep seeking out new perspectives, keep looking closely at the ideas you've always taken for granted, and keep questioning the everyday structures around you. Until next time.